Hey, what's up, guys? Tom Clark over here at TFC IV MMA. I am glad to be back with you guys. I know it has been a while. Had some things going on, birthday, some personal family stuff, flew my mom down, bunch of other stuff. So it's been a little bit. Sorry, I haven't had the card breakdowns out. Really only done the interviews for the last month or so. But we're glad to be back, and I can't think of a better card to break down with you guys than UFC 290. I mean, International Fight Week. We got one of the most skilled main and co-main event combos we have had in a while. Featherweight champion versus interim champion, with Volkanovski coming back down to 145 and going up against Yair. And then we get the trilogy of Alejandro Pantoja versus Brandon Moreno. Got a feature bout of Duplessis versus Robert Whittaker, and just an overall stacked fight card. I mean, this is a fight fan's dream card. There may not be a bunch of huge names. I know there were some pullouts and such, but for fight fans out there, this is a card I think we have all been looking forward to. So let's break right into it. Starting off the night, we got Kamela Kirk going up against Esteban Ribovic. Obviously, Kirk's 1-1 in the UFC. He did beat Makwan Amirkhani, but then lost to Damon Jackson. He comes in as a slight underdog in this one at plus 150, going up against Esteban Ribovic. I actually got to see Esteban's UFC debut at UFC 285, actually. He was the first fight of the night going up against Loic Radzhabov, and it was a pretty close fight, so I can see why he's the favorite in this one. At minus 175, I think Esteban's a safe pick. I mean, he did do well against Radzhabov's grappling. Radzhabov had success, but Esteban was able to get up and stuff, and that's tough. So I definitely see why he's the favorite. I think there is some value on Kirk, but at minus 175, give me Esteban to start off the night. Then we go down to the men's flyweight division. We got the Turkish delight, Shannon Ross, going up against Jesus Aguilera. Shannon's about a plus 155 in this one, and Aguilera's minus 180. Both of these guys coming off losses, both with one fight in the promotion. Shannon lost in Sydney to Clayton Rodriguez, and Jesus lost to Tatsuro Taira, who's also fighting on this card. And both those are guys who it's not a shame to have lost to him. Both very skilled. Clayton has a bunch of power in his hands. And as we know, Tyra's a phenomenal grappler. I do think, though, at minus 180, I got to go with Jesus Aguilera here. I think there is some value on Ross, but I'm not huge on him. I know some guys in some betting chats I'm in and such are, hey, go with Ross, not me. So I got to go with Jesus Aguilera on this one. Then the next one is a fight, of course, I'm super excited for. Any of you guys that pay attention to the channel know I talk with Cam Simon regularly, interviewed him a couple times, message him every now and then. Just a fighter I really enjoy watching and talking to. And he's going up against Terrence Mitchell. Obviously, this wasn't the fight that was supposed to happen. He was supposed to be fighting Christian Rodriguez. After Christian beat Raul Rosas, him and Simon was going to be an awesome matchup of prospects. But injuries happened. Christian pulled out, and Terrence Mitchell comes in to save the fight, keep Simon on the card. And, I mean, the odds are very heavy on this one. Cameron is anywhere from a 4 to 5 to 1 favorite, depending on what book you're looking at. And I mean, it is tough to lay that number on a younger guy like Cameron, who has shown to make mistakes with the fouls and such. But the skill level difference in this fight is just so major. I don't see any facet of MMA where Terrence has an advantage over Cameron. And I think Cameron gets a finish. I know when we talked, if you guys watched our interview, I believe it was within 2 rounds or within 8 minutes even that Cameron said. And I'm pretty confident he gets it done. I don't know if it's going to be with TKO or submission. He's very skilled on the feet, has great kicks to the body, great hands, but his grappling is also very underrated. We saw him use it in the Mana Martinez fight at UFC 285. So there's no question on this one for me. Cameron Simon is the pick without a doubt. My lock of the night, without a doubt. I just think, like I said, those are tough odds to hang on a kid as young as Cameron is, but I think he gets it done, gets his record to 3-0 in the UFC while only being in the promotion for about 7 to 8 months. So very impressive from the South African. Then we go to Vitor Petrino versus Marcin Prachnio. This is a fight. Obviously, Petrino had his UFC debut a couple months ago. I believe it was at the UFC at the Virgin Hotels on the Jan versus Marab card. And he's a bomb, man. I mean, the guy just has bombs in his hands, and he's going to finish you. And I think, although Prachnio is coming off a good performance, we don't know what William Knight was doing that night. So you kind of have to take that performance with a grain of salt, because William Knight wasn't really throwing well and just all that kind of stuff. I know it comes out later, some deaths in the family. I don't know if we can blame it on that, but hey. But Prachnio had a good performance there, but I don't think he has that success this time. When he started off his career, he got knocked out in the first round several times. I mean, Sam Alvey put him out in the first round. I've talked with Sam before. No disrespect to the guy, but Sam Alvey's knocking you out in round one. I think there's a great chance Vitor Petrino does the same exact thing. So give me Petrino in this one. I know he's a minus 275, but I'm not scared of those odds at all. I think Petrino will finish Prachnio most likely in the first round, and I'm going by knockout. And I could see a flush knockout, not TKO here. So give me Petrino on that one. Then we go to Tatsuro Taira going up against Edgar Chairez. Obviously, Tatsuro was supposed to fight Clayton Rodriguez a couple weeks ago. Clayton missed weight, so Tatsuro got pulled and then got added onto this one. And Edgar, if that name sounds familiar, he was the one involved in that horrible referee stoppage a couple months ago, where all of us are watching saying, never let that guy in a cage again. The referee, Edgar, chokes the guy out. And then as the guy's out, he readjusts it, and the ref still's not stopping the fight, even though everyone's saying he's out. So he readjusts it to an armbar. The guy wakes up and then taps. It was tough to watch. It was not fun, and I hope that referee never does anything MMA related again. So Edgar is making his promotional debut here, but he kind of drew a tough straw with Tatsuro Taira. We got two guys here who are going to make their promotional debut, and both have drawn a very tough straw with Edgar and then with Bo Nickel's opponent. So it's going to be tough with Woodburn and Edgar. But Tatsuro's a huge favorite here. I'm not betting him at that number, but I think he gets it done. So the pick will be Tatsuro Taira. Then we go up to the light heavyweight division. Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menfield. This fight happened in Perth. It was a draw. I mean, Alonzo Menfield had such a great start, knocked Crute down a couple times, and if he didn't gas, he would have been able to finish him. But there was point deduction, so it ended up being a draw. And I think this is the perfect move. Rebook the fight. Don't let it end on a draw. Rebook it, and let's go from there. So that's exactly what's happening here. Crute definitely had the grappling advantage in the last fight, as we saw. So I think that's why he's about a minus 120 favorite in this one, whereas Menfield's about plus 100 or so. I believe the odds were a little wider last time, but since Menfield did put him down, they have tightened. I mean, the thing with Jimmy Crute is he's very skilled, but his fight IQ is not the best, just to say it nicely. So it's going to be a good fight, guys. I mean, I'm excited for it. As long as it's as entertaining as the last one, I'll be happy. There's so many fights on this card that have banger potential, and this is definitely one of them. But at underdog odds, I got to go with Alonzo Menfield here. I mean, he caught Jimmy Crute several times last fight. Jimmy doesn't fight the smartest. I think Alonzo puts him out this time. A nice prop to watch would be Alonzo knockout in round 1 and Alonzo knockout in round 2. So I like both of those plays as well. I know a lot of people are heavy on Crute, but a guy with that negative fight IQ, I'll take the guy who has questionable cardio against that. So official pick there, Menfield. Then we go back to the women's fights. We got Yasmin Uruguay. I know I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Going up against Denise Gomes. Yasmin's 2-0 in the promotion. Gomes is 1-1. She lost to Loca, but had a phenomenal performance against Bruna Brazil. And that was only back in April. I mean, so she's making a pretty quick turnaround here. I know 3 months isn't super quick, but it's impressive. So Yasmin's a huge favorite in this one at minus 400. Gomes comes in at plus 300. I know you guys have heard me say before, if there's super skewed odds in a women's fight, put some money on the underdog or put some money on a decision prop or split decision prop. So I'd recommend that, but I do think Yasmin gets the win. So at minus 400, give me Yasmin there. Then we go up Jack Della Maddalena going up against Harrell. Harrell's making his promotional debut. We're talking about guys making their debut who are just who pulled a tough straw. Same thing here with Harrell. I believe it's Josiah Harrell or Joshua Harrell. I'm sorry. And he's going up against Jack Della Maddalena. Jack was supposed to fight Sean Brady, who's a top 10 opponent. Obviously, Sean had to pull out. I believe it was like staph in the elbow, something equivalent to that. So it sucks. That was a fight we wanted to see. We get to see Jack, who has some of the most crisp boxing in the UFC, and then Sean Brady, who has some of the best grappling. So I was really looking forward to that one, but we're not getting it. So we can't sit here and complain about it. But I don't think Harrell has much success here. I think Jack's probably going to knock him out, most likely in the first round. I think Jack Della Maddalena proved his last fight. The dude's on a different level. He's got phenomenal boxing, very crisp, great combination, attacks the body well. So give me Jack Della Maddalena by knockout in this one. Then we get to the feature prelim. This is a fight a lot of people wanted on the main card. And although I definitely think Robbie deserves to be there, I don't mind this spot only because it's going to get more viewers than any other fight. It's the feature prelim during prime time, and it's Ruthless Robbie Lawler. last fight for the UFC. I mean, I'm born in 2002. Robbie Lawler was fighting when I was born. I remember watching Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald, Carlos Condit, Johnny Hendricks. I mean, there was a time where if Robbie Lawler was fighting, it was must see TV. And it was one of those times I loved about MMA in my childhood. It was just, he was so damn fun to watch. Whether it's the McDonald fight with the stare down and the lip that's diced up to here. The Condit fight was so good too. Just so many wars for Robbie Lawler. So I'm so glad that they also gave him a guy here who has the tendency to get in these war kind of fights with Nico Price. Robbie comes in at plus 220, Nico at minus 250. I do think those odds are a little wide, especially with how quickly Nico gassed his last fight. Not how quickly, but how much he gassed. I mean, there was he hit Phil Rowe with some shots, but I mean, he gassed out heavy, and that's how Phil Rowe was able to finish him. So I hope Nico can give Robbie a proper war. If there's anyone who deserves an all-out war as a send-off, I usually don't wish that upon the older guys because obviously with the damage and all that, but if there's one guy I want to see just have an all-out war in his last fight, it's ruthless Robbie Lawler. And at plus 220, we got to take a swing on it. We got to go Robbie on this one. I may be picking with my heart and not my head, and I will happily do it when it comes to Robbie Lawler. So give me ruthless Robbie Lawler. Then we get to the main card. Starting it off, we have the Penn State wrestling phenom, Bo Nickel. He was set to fight Trayshawn Gore. We all wake up yesterday morning on July 4th, and Trayshawn Gore pulls out. He had an injury. I believe it was with his arm and his wrist, is what I believe I read. I woke up pretty early and saw the news, so I can't say for sure that's what it was, but I'm 99% certain. So Bo's now going up against Val Woodburn, who is he's a regional fighter, but he's got some big power in his hands. And as much as I hate to see Gore pull out, these are the opportunities you like to see in the UFC. I mean, this guy owns a landscaping company. He said he was working on Monday, got home, then got the call. So as much as, like I said, we got a few of these guys making their debuts, pulled a tough straw going up against Tyra, JDM, and Nickel. I still like the opportunity and to hear some of these guys' stories. Bo is going to be the biggest favorite in MMA history at minus 2,500. I think Val's going to come in probably plus 1,200, plus 1,300. But I mean, I think we all know how this fight's going to go. I think we all know Bo Nickel probably wins it. But you always got to kind of root for the underdog, especially at plus 1,300 odds. Val has big power in his hands, and I've heard he has some decent takedown defense. Been working, haven't had time to watch the tape. But I think you got to go Bo Nickel here, especially at those odds. I'm not betting against him. I'll just put it that way. Then we go back down to the lightweight division. We got a guy who's just an enigma of how this guy makes 155 pounds. I saw him fight live. I met him live at UFC 285. And man, the fact that Jalen Turner can even make 155 blows my damn mind. But he's going up against the man from New Zealand, Megan Rapinoe. Oh, sorry. No, Dan Hooker. That's a quick joke with that dyed hair. I mean, you got to kind of rag Dan for it. The dyed hair, the leg tattoos. He said today at media day it was impulsive, and I mean, we could tell. I don't know. I'm not one to brag. I mean, I'm out of shape. I can't make fun of anybody's appearance, but it was a little questionable there by Dan Hooker. Jalen Turner's a heavy favorite. This one, not super heavy, but minus 250. And although that is a little steep, I still don't see a way Jalen Turner loses this fight. Obviously, Dan could try and fight technically, use the leg kicks. Turner's got them long, kind of lankier legs. I mean, that's how he makes 155. He's kind of lankier. But, I mean, with training with Hamzat Chimaev, which I think was to shore up some of his takedowns, and then just overall, I think Jalen Turner's far more skilled. He does have a certain way of luck against these guys from down under as well with Australia and New Zealand. He beat Brad Riddell, who obviously has trained heavily with Dan Hooker in the past. So at minus 250, you got to give me Jalen Turner. Then we get to the featured bout of the night. This is one I've been very outspoken about on social media. Pissed a lot of people off. A lot of people. I mean, Rob fans, they're loyal to their guy, but they also act like the dude's the second coming of Christ. Like he hasn't been knocked out several times. Like he didn't go to a 48-47 with Darren Till. Rob is very good, but so is Dricus du Plessis. The S is silent, motherfuckers. And I think there's a lot of value at Dricus at this one. Rob's minus 410. Dricus is plus 310. And I think there's a bunch of value there for a guy who is undefeated. And I remember before the Bilal Muhammad Gilbert Burns fight, everyone said, oh, Burns, oh, the only way Burns loses is this. And they're saying a lot of the same shit about Rob. And as much as I say the same thing with Bilal. It may not be pretty, but Dricus finds a way to win. Everyone bashes the dude's cardio. He still outlasts all his opponents. And a guy in Brad Tavares who went to decision with several people, and Dracus was very gassed after the first and still managed to win rounds 2 and 3. He was heavily gassed against Darren Till, still choked him out in the third round. Was heavily gassed against Derek Brunson, still managed to take him down and beat him up to the point where Derek's corner threw the towel. So I think a lot of people are really overlooking Dricus du Plessis here. And at plus 310, I am all over it. I got that South African parlay locked in. First leg, Cameron Simon. Second leg, Dricus du Plessis. Cameron's going to start off, get the momentum rolling, and Dricus is going to take it over. I think then Adesanya gets in the cage. They do a nice little face-off. They promo. I know they're saying UFC 293 in Sydney. Fuck it. Let's get UFC Africa. You have Israel Adesanya, originally from Nigeria. You have Dricus du Plessis, who from South Africa, resides in South Africa, trains in South Africa. That fight needs to be on Africa, in UFC Africa. That needs to be the card that brings it there. So UFC may try and rush it to do the Sydney card. I don't like it. Let's do Africa. End of the year, beginning of next year. Let's do it. Then we go to the co-main event, guys. Brandon Moreno versus Alejandro Pantoja. The third fight. These guys have fought 2 times before, sorry. And Alejandro's won both times. One of them was an exhibition. It was on The Ultimate Fighter. And Brandon started off pretty well, but Alejandro kind of took over from there. And he was hitting Brandon with some big shots that almost seemed like they were gassing Brandon. And since Pantoja's looked very good, he did have the loss to Figueiredo, but that's not a loss to hang your head on. Prime Davison Figueiredo at flyweight was basically unbeatable. And Alejandro's looked great since. I mean, his last fight against Alex Perez showed him no respect. Just marched forward, threw haymakers, got on his back, and choked him out. And as much as I'd love to see him do that, same thing against Brandon Moreno, it may be a little tougher against a guy like Brandon Moreno. So I don't know if Alejandro Pantoja can do that, but I am picking him to win here. At plus 165, I think there's huge value. And as much as Moreno has grown as a fighter, I remember everyone saying the same thing at 281 with Adesanya and Pereira when Pereira came back in the 5th and beat him. I mean, as much as Moreno's grown, I think Pantoja's grown as well. And I really think there's a huge mental hurdle if you're Brandon Moreno that you have to overcome. And I don't know if he's done that yet. So I know I've been kind of vocal in the past. I'm not Brandon Moreno's biggest fan, but I'm not being biased here. I think Pantoja has several ways to victory. I think his grappling is far better. I think he has more power. I think he can knock Moreno down. I think he can use his shots to gas Brandon. And I do think Brandon lands very crisp jabs, does stuff like that. But Pantoja's never been finished, and Pantoja will eat one to get one. So I could see him eating a few of those jabs, getting inside on Moreno, getting the sub. But anyway, and new, give me Alejandro Pantoja. Then we go to the main event. Alexander Volkanovski, Alexander the Great, going up against Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. And both of these guys coming off great performances in Perth. Yair got his hand raised against Josh Emmett via triangle choke submission. And Volk didn't get the win, but he won over a lot of fans with his performance against Islam Makhachev. Looking back, it's a fight I do think Islam won, probably 48-47. But it's hard to discount Alexander Volkanovski. He tested Islam in a way we had never seen Islam tested before. And being from a lighter weight class, being a small featherweight and going up to 155 and doing that to a big lightweight like Islam Makhachev, very, very impressive. I know the odds are pretty wide in this one, and I'm not going to lie. There is great value on Yair. If Yair gets a finish, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going Alexander Volkanovski. I like him via decision. I mean, he kind of put it best. These guys look great against other people. They don't look great against me. He said, look at Max versus Calvin. Look at Max versus Yair. Look at Max versus me. And I think he has a point. He has ways to just neutralize people's best tools. I mean, even Brian Ortega, one of the best offensive jiu-jitsu practitioners in MMA we've ever seen, he locks in the mounted guillotine and then his signature triangle, and just somehow Volk finds ways to win. I mean, Yair went neck and neck with the zombie. Volk destroyed him. Yair lost to Max in a competitive but clear win for Max. Volk destroyed him. I know we can't use MMA math. I know styles make fights, but although the odds are a little high to where I wouldn't bet him, I think Alexander Volkanovski gets the win here. So there we go, guys. UFC 290 full card picks. I can't wait for this card, guys. It's loaded. International Fight Week is always a blast. I think we may be getting some big fight announcements soon. I know July is usually, like last July is when it was announced that Islam would be going up against Charles. I'm hoping we get some Abu Dhabi announcements. I need a Hamzat Chimaev fight announcement. But guys, I'm super pumped for this card. Let me know who you guys have. Let me know who's your lock of the night. And always like, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. I do this for the fun of it. I'm not getting paid or anything like that. I do this because I love MMA. I've been watching it for over 15 years now, and I love interacting with all you guys. So hope you all had a happy 4th of July. To all my American fans, to all my foreign fans, hey, hold that L to Sicky and all the other guys over there in England. But always a pleasure, guys. Have a great rest of your night and enjoy the fights. I'll see you on Sunday.